Today, we're delving into a topic that stirs debate among families. Should parents continue financially supporting their adult children, or is there a time when it's better to step back? This question takes center stage in the story of Mr. and Mrs. Lin, a retired couple who, despite having the means, decided to stop financially supporting their two sons. Their story is not only thought-provoking, but also a reflection of how modern family dynamics can shift over time. It highlights the challenges of balancing love, sacrifice, and independence. A comfortable retirement. Mr. Lin, 72, and his wife, both retired civil servants, enjoy a secure and comfortable life. With a combined monthly pension exceeding 10,000 yuan, they live without financial stress. Their days are filled with travel, hobbies, and moments of peace. Yet, despite their financial stability, they've made the unusual decision to no longer support their two grown sons. In a community where many parents continue to provide for their children well into adulthood, this choice raised eyebrows. Many people think parents should give endlessly, Mr. Lin reflects. But we realize that doing so wasn't helping anyone, not them and not us. A history of sacrifice. Like many parents, the Lins worked tirelessly to give their children the best start in life. They prioritized their sons' education, ensuring they attended the best schools. Both boys excelled academically, eventually graduating from prestigious universities and securing stable jobs in major cities. When our sons were young, we spared no effort, Mr. Lin says. We believed that if we provided a strong foundation, they would succeed and be grateful. The couple's support didn't end there. They played an active role in helping their sons settle into adulthood. When our eldest son got married, we paid the down payment for his house, 200,000 yuan, Mrs. Lin shares. Later, when he wanted a car, we contributed tens of thousands more. For our younger son, who had a harder time finding work, we funded postgraduate studies to improve his prospects. When grandchildren arrived, the Lins made yet another sacrifice. They retired early to help raise them. I left work at 50 to take care of our eldest grandson, Mrs. Lin recalls. When our younger son had a daughter, my husband retired at 60 to help care for her. We believed we were building a close, loving family. Signs of trouble. Over time, the Lins began to notice troubling changes in their son's behavior. Gratitude gave way to entitlement, and their once close family bond started to fray. Our eldest son lives just 300 kilometers away, a 4-hour drive, Mr. Lin says. But he only visits once a year, during Chinese New Year. Even then, he comes empty-handed and leaves with gifts we prepared for the family. Their younger son, meanwhile, developed an increasingly demanding attitude. He called one day and said, "Dad, transfer 130,000 yuan for a new car," Mr. Lin recalls. It wasn't even a request, just an expectation. I refused, not because we couldn't afford it, but because of his tone. It felt like he saw us as his personal bank. When the Lins started setting boundaries, their son's attitudes changed dramatically. Visits became infrequent. Conversations were curt, and any warmth seemed to fade. The breaking point. The Lins' disappointment reached its peak during a series of health crises. When Mrs. Lin was hospitalized for osteoarthritis, neither son visited, despite knowing about her condition. I hoped they would come to see me, Mrs. Lin says. But all I got was a phone call from each of them. Seeing other patients surrounded by their children made me realize how distant my own sons had become. Shortly after, Mr. Lin suffered a fall and fractured his foot. Despite explaining his need for help, both sons made excuses. One said he was busy with work, and the other claimed he wasn't feeling well, Mr. Lin shares. We had to hire outside help, even though I later found out that one son went on vacation and the other went hiking during that time. It broke my heart. A firm decision. After these experiences, the Lins decided to take a new approach. They would no longer provide financial support to their sons and would instead focus on securing their own future. We realized we couldn't rely on our children, Mr. Lin explains. If they treat us like this now, how can we expect them to care for us later? The couple made plans to use their savings for their own needs, including potential expenses like nursing home care. Sometimes, it's better to rely on professional services than to hope for help that may never come, Mrs. Lin says. Lessons learned. The Lin story is a poignant reminder of the complexities of modern parent-child relationships. It challenges the notion that parental love is always about giving and highlights the importance of setting boundaries. So, what can we learn from their experience? Balance support and independence. Helping children is natural, but too much help can foster dependency. Encouraging independence teaches resilience and self-reliance. Set boundaries early. Establishing clear expectations about financial support can prevent misunderstandings later. Prioritize self-care. Parents often sacrifice their well-being for their children, but it's essential to ensure financial security for your own future. Reflecting on the future. The Lin's decision isn't about withholding love. It's about redefining it. They hope their actions will ultimately benefit their sons, teaching them the value of independence and responsibility. We still love them deeply, Mrs. Lin says. But love isn't just about giving money. It's about helping them grow, even if that means stepping back. A question for you. What do you think about the Lin's decision? Is it right for parents to stop supporting their adult children, or should they continue to help when they can? Every family is different, and there's no one-size-fits-all answer. But stories like this remind us of the importance of balance in relationships and the need to consider not just what we give, but how it shapes the ones we love. This story of love, sacrifice, and hard choices reminds us that parenting doesn't end when children grow up. It just evolves. The lessons we learn along the way can shape not only our families, but also our understanding of what it truly means to care for one another.